everybody, it's Romania Black, and we are on episode 18 of the case study of Vanitas, and yeah, things are pretty chaotic. Chloe, her power has gone berserk, and it's basically made this entire plane of existence, this little parallel pocket dimension, go haywire. Astolfo and Noe are fighting. Roland showed up with Olivier and some of the other Chaucers. Jeanne thinks they need to kill Chloe. Vanitas can't find his book. It's just a lot of chaos, right? And at this point, I'm not really sure what's going to happen. I mean, we still have quite a few episodes left, and I feel like Chloe is not the big bad. I wouldn't be surprised if Nania was, but I feel like Chloe is not the big bad of this arc. And even if Nania is, we still have Ruthven to take care of. I don't know if we're going to get Ruthven resolved in this. I don't know, but we still have so much, like with the oath and everything, that I feel like there's a lot we have not touched base on. So I feel like we need to get past this whole issue and get out of here and save Chloe and JJ and then move on to the next thing. But I don't know if Jean-Jacques and Chloe are going to get saved or not, or if they're going to die. I don't know. This series has given us a lot to think about, and we've gotten Jean's backstory and learned about her and her growing up and having a very spotty memory, and Ruthven's affected her. There's just a lot going on. So I don't exactly know what we're going to get this episode, but I really would like Vanitas to find his book. That'd be great, so that he could maybe save Chloe or do something, right? Or, you know, do something with Nania, whatever. Even if he doesn't save Chloe and Jean-Jacques, to at least get rid of Nania, because she's dangerous in herself. And the alteration engine is also a problem. Like, what are we going to do about it? Do we destroy it? That's all of Chloe's family's life work, but it's dangerous. There's a lot of factors. And I know that the manga goes on beyond this, and they were talking in the Discord today about it just picking back up. So I don't know. I don't know exactly what we're going to get out of this season. It's still all up in the air, but yeah. So my voice, I'm starting to lose it a little bit. It's been very squeaky today, so I apologize, but I need to stay on track with scheduling, so gotta get up. And I feel fine. I don't feel sick at all. It's just my throat is scratchy. I've been talking too much. It's basically what it amounts to. So I am going to take a break after this reaction and like hopefully clear my throat up, and it'll get better from there. But yeah. The only comment I have is from Jeanne. Jeanne over on Patreon was talking about how maybe the reason they were positing a theory that maybe the reason Chloe doesn't age is because she was transformed into a vampire and not born into a vampire. And I can't remember if I've said that in the discussions before, but I think we've talked about this, that could be a possibility, that since Noe and Dami were born into the vampire culture, they could age naturally, but since Chloe was not, she can't. I feel like we've touched base on that, but if we haven't, I totally agree with that theory. That seems very plausible. It makes sense. And that would explain why Jean-Jacques has aged as well, because he might have been born a vampire and he's aged slowly over time. So we think, but I don't know. I'm really excited though to see what's going to happen in this episode. There's always something fun to talk about with the case study of Vanitas, so I'm ready for the madness to get resolved at this point. I'm ready for the madness of this arc to get resolved, but I'm a little bit nervous where that's going to lead us when it does and what that resolution is going to look like. So, but in any case, I hope y'all are excited because I am too, but we're not going to waste any more time. We're going to dive right in and talk about this episode. So we are going to start the case study of Vanitas, episode 18, and we're going to do that here in 3, 2, 1, and I'll see you all on the other side. Well, I was pretty much enamored by this episode. I feel bad for the reaction because the whole time I was just like trying to like just keep my gaze. Like I was trying to say something. I was like, I need to say something for the reaction, but I'm just like so entranced by this episode. There was just a lot going on, and learning about Astolfo. Now, I know that you can kind of tell when a series is based off of a manga. I've done this enough at this point. I've watched enough series based off manga that when you start to see things a little bit condensed, you're like, maybe there's stuff missing. And sometimes you can't tell. Sometimes it's done very, very well. Sometimes it's very obvious. And here, knowing that the manga exists and that it's still ongoing, I feel as if maybe there were parts, like with Astolfo especially, that were left out. And that's fine. I do eventually plan on reading the manga, so I will know then what was left out, but I am very curious, right? I'm very curious to know what exactly was left out, what's the deal, what's going on. So I'm very curious to see what that will end up looking like when this is all said and done. But with that being said, I thought for the most part there was a lot of stuff going on. I brought out Whiteboard Coon because there's a lot of people's agendas that get brought up in this episode that I'm like, wait a minute, what are we doing? What, like Dante and Johan start talking about what they are here for, and I'm like, wait, I know it's about the alteration engine and about Machina and stuff, but what are we doing? What? Who? So I wanted to bring that out and kind of talk about it along with Astolfo's past and everything that gets brought up in this episode. Man, I just feel for Jeanne. I really do. We get a recap in this episode. I feel for Jeanne because Jeanne has just been literally brainwashed to believe that she doesn't have a purpose of existence. And it's so sad. She believes like she can't pray for things. She can't want for things. She can't wish for things. She just has to be this empty husk. And I love that Vanitas is like, no, you don't. You do not. You can wish for things. It's perfectly fine. Vanitas is like, we can save Chloe. We're the ones who can do it if you just let us. And I love the little detail that she like, it's like she's underwater and everything's muted and like this like sea foam green mutation. And then you see Vanitas with the little formula things coming off him and he's in blue. It's really, really cute. I love it. But he's like, we can do this if we work together. I'm asking for your help, Jeanne. What do you want to do? He's like, Chloe hasn't slain a single person because, yeah, we've established Chloe hasn't hurt anybody in the city because she loves her people. She won't hurt them. And the beast has just been protecting her all these years. It's just a big time loop. I love when Vanitas reaches his hands out. It's like the little cat claws on there. He's like, she hasn't killed anyone yet. Not now or in the past. That is one thing I'm sure of. She was framed as the beast. And of course, you know, we learned in the last several episodes that the church is likely to blame for a lot of the framing and things like that. And Vanitas is like, look, you go ask her later. Let her explain the story to you. We don't have time for that. But instead, what do you want to do? He's like, I'm going to ask you the question I posed at the mountain cabin. What do you wish to do? Will you slay Chloe de Apshare? What do you really want to do? Like, if you get to choose, what do you want to do? And the fact that Jeanne has like molded her hair after Chloe, I mean, she looks a lot like Chloe in this vision where she's underwater, like her eyes and her hair look muted, kind of like Chloe's. She says, I shouldn't wish or pray for anything. And Vanitas is smiling like, why not? I feel like Vanitas very much is the shoulder devil in that point. He's like, why not pray for something? Why not wish for something? You know, he's trying to pull it out of her. He's just like, come on. He's like, you can do it. Let's go. And she's like, but if I don't obey, then it comes out. She's like, someone else will lose their head in place of mine. So it's just Jeanne being selfless and saying, if I don't do something, someone's going to get hurt because of me. And I love that. I love that idea that Jeanne, let me put over here people and their motivations. We have Jeanne who very much just wants to be selfless. She doesn't want others to get hurt because of her. And that's so sweet. And Vanitas is just like, all right, I get it. Mm-hmm. And I love that he doesn't ridicule her for that. He doesn't say she's wrong. She's like, what about even you? He laughs when she says even you. She's like, you could get hurt because of me. And Jeanne's like, oh, no. He's like, no, I'm not going to die, at least not before you. Now, that, I don't know what to feel about that because on the one hand, I'm like, does that mean Jeanne's going to die? Or because we know that supposedly Vanitas ends up dying. So what, is he just joking there? Like, what do we do with that? I'm like, come on now, show. Don't be like that. How dare you? And then I love that he says, I promised I'd kill you if you ever lost control. And then he says, I love you. And I'm sure that, you know, if you are a Jeanne and Vanitas shipper, you're like, yes, confirmation. Mm-hmm. I do think that Vanitas loves her. Yes, I do think he does. Now, the question is, of course, is it romantic? Is it sexual? Or is it platonic? Because you can love someone and not want to date them. You can love someone and not want to have sex with them. You can love someone and just love them, and it's unconditional, right? And I tend to lean more towards that, right? I think that Jean does love, I think that Vanitas loves her, but I don't know if he wants to, like, you know, do anything with it. But he says, I can make your wish come true. It must be me. So out with it. What is truly your wish? Now, of course, there is the question, though. Did he say that he loves her just to get her to talk to him, too? Because he says, he's like, come on, like let's get it out with it, right? I mean, there is that to consider. He could be just saying that to make her, like, tell him what she wants and to coax it out of her. But, I mean, if you ship them, I'm sure that you think it's real. And if you don't, then, you know, whatever have you. I mean, he definitely wants her to tell her. He's like, what does he say there? He's like, it has to be me, out with it, what you wish for. And he says, tell me no matter how trivial a desire or unlovely an emotion, even if it's a curse, what do you want? I'll do all in my power to help you. That's what you wanted, right? And so she asks for his help for Chloe. And she's like, it's tormented me for so long, I can't stand it. And that breaks through and they get out together. I love it. I love the blue and the pink together. It's so good. And him giving her, like, the head pats. And he's like, fine, leave it to me and I'll help you. I'll help you and we'll take her on together, right? But then things get a lot more complicated. Things get a lot more complicated. It's not so easy said and done, right? So we have the automatons that have, we find out the astromite inside of them that look like weapons. They have, like, the sickle hands and saw hands. And Noe is trying to be like, Jean-Jacques, are you all right? Like, he manages to get him out of beast form. And then Vanitas shows up and he's like, this is your fault. And again, Vanitas is blushing there, right? Vanitas did not blush at all around Jeanne. He was just trying to get her to, like, say, come on, admit that you need some help. I love you. Let's go. But then when he gets to Noe, he's all blushy faced and he's like, this is all your fault because you didn't wish to give up and you wanted to come along and fight beside me. What's the deal? And he's like, you didn't want to give up. I spoke too soon because of you. I'm not in the habit of making doubtful promises. In fact, it's inconceivable. You're to blame. And he's like, what? I feel like Vanitas is like, I made all these promises to Jean and everything and did all these things because you gave me hope that I could be this way. I'm like, why are you suddenly Cinderella around Noe? What is the deal? I love it. And then he wakes Jean-Jacques up and asks where the book is. I love that he's like all blushy faced. He's like, whatever your name is, I'll say this once. Chloe's vengeance failed. So where's my damn book so I can save her? So there we go. So Vanitas is just trying to get his book back, right? He's trying to get his book back and he blames Noe for making him hopeful and helping with promises again. I'm like, oh, quit. Don't blame this on Noe. So meanwhile, we find out about Astolfo. That's probably like the big chunk of this episode. This is the part that I feel was the part that I'm sure the manga goes into more detail with. But since we only have a limited number of episodes, we have to like condense it. I'm sure that's the case. I need to go on Discord and just ask, when did part 1 end in the manga and when does part 2 pick up? Because I've been told through the comments, even though I didn't want to be told through the comments, I've had some people spoil and say, oh, well, a lot of stuff changes in the second core. And I'm like, shh, don't tell me these things. I want to be surprised, but it's too late now, I know. So I don't want to know any more, but if that's the case, then if I do read the manga, I may do a review of the first part, just in general, and then pick up where the second part begins. I may do that. I don't know. It depends on if I'm still wanting to do manga reviews at that point, because I feel like I definitely need a break, but we'll see. We'll see. And so, yeah, we have Astolfo's past get brought up and the idea of their ancestors risking their lives battling vampire kind. So we have Astolfo, who is basically raised with a family of Chaucers, him and his sister, but they befriended a vampire. And the vampire took their vengeance out on Astolfo and his family. Now, it really sucks, honestly, because I mean, Astolfo, I forget that Ayumu voices him, that Marase voices him, that's Hinata's voice actor, and I remembered it partway through the reaction. I was like, oh my god, it is Hinata's voice actor. It's so weird to see him like voicing someone with a much deeper voice. What sucks so much is that Astolfo, he said, should those fiends again bear their fangs against this world, you need to take up this knife. What sucks is, this whole scene gave me very Attack on Titan vibes throughout the entire scene, but it's this idea of fighting an enemy versus a friend. And like, what sucks is it's a two-way street, right? What sucks is it's a two-way street. On the one hand, Astolfo is this sweet kid that doesn't want to kill anything. He doesn't want to hurt anyone. And he's this sweet, kind-hearted person. And him and his sister befriend this vampire. And they're kind to them. And they just, everything seems hunky-dory. And then the vampire ends up getting their revenge and slaughtering his whole family. And somehow Astolfo survives and vows vengeance against the vampire that killed his family. And it sucks on two fronts. It sucks for one reason, because the vampire decided to seek revenge. Like, they chose violence. They met Astolfo, this kind-hearted person, and his sister who helped him. And I'm sure at this point he lured them over, but he helped them. And he had the opportunity to start fresh, but I'm sure Astolfo reminded him, like him and his family reminded the vampire of everything that he lost, right? And so he swore vengeance. And so on the one hand, you can't blame the vampire for swearing vengeance against the people that destroyed his entire family, because that's what Astolfo ends up doing. But it just creates this cycle of violence. Like, the vampire didn't do what they could to start over and start fresh with this family of kind-hearted people, or at least Astolfo, who was kind-hearted. And then Astolfo, in turn, once he has his family, destroyed, he doesn't sit back and reflect and go, okay, the vampire killed my family because my family killed his. So do I stop this cycle of violence, or do I keep it going? And he keeps it going. I guess what I'm saying is that if Roland was in this situation, Roland seems like the type of person that could break the cycle of violence and is actively trying to. And Astolfo is just keeping it going. And you can't get mad at Astolfo for keeping it going, because this horrible thing happens to his family. Like, any one of us, if that happened, would maybe or more likely be the same way. It just sucks because we on the outside can kind of see like that it's not helping Astolfo to keep this cycle of violence going. It doesn't help anything. Also, Astolfo and his sister look simultaneously like link click characters and like the Haruichi and his brother Ryo from Ace of the Diamond. I did want to say, like, the butler keeps yelling from the same place over and over again, and I'm like, dude, just go looking for them. But they have this like amazing, like, you think it's this friendship that they built throughout all this, and then it immediately cuts to like the moment they're on the hillside and they're like, I'm gonna tell you all about my family. I'm like, this is gonna end horribly, isn't it? And then it ends horribly. We just immediately cut to Astolfo. His entire family is brutally murdered. He's attacked, and the vampire is like, I'm getting my revenge on all of you. And then he basically tells him, like, my family was slain by Chaucer paladins. And he's like, how does it feel? Like, he just continues that cycle of violence. And Astolfo, it's understandable why he's so mad. But now that he's met Noe, like, I want Astolfo to stop the cycle of violence for his own sanity, as well as everyone else's sakes, because I'm like, you're not helping anything. You're just, the more you attack the vampires, the more they're going to fight back, and it's just going to be this cyclical thing. I feel like it's going to tie back with Ruthven and the idea that Ruthven's kind of like Astolfo, it seems. Like, he couldn't get over the fact of what the humans had done, so he just continues the violence, and Astolfo does the same thing on the human end. So, and it's like, you think that Noe and Vanitas have the potential to, like, break up the cycle, and I think Roland recognizes that, but we still aren't there yet. It's like, it sucks. It sucks a lot. And then what are friends for? I feel like there's more in the manga with this, but we're not there yet. So yeah, so then Astolfo wakes up from his dream. He freaks out. He sees Noe. He gets like PTSD flashbacks, and he injects himself with more of the stuff to like go after the vampires. And he's had 2 so far, and I'm pretty sure there's like a limit on how much you can take before you hurt yourself. And I think maybe the butler was starting to notice that, but I'm like, what are we going to do with you, Astolfo? Like, it's not good. And then Johann and Dante show up and they say, what happened here? And it's just this madness. And like, I don't think we'll get what we came for. So that's interesting. So we have Johann and Dante. Johann and Dante. I'm going to put them right here. Johann and Dante, what did they come for? They came for... If they came for the alteration engine, I don't know how the hell they were planning on getting that out of there because, like, it's huge. How did you think you were going to, like, walk away with it? I don't think that's what they came for. They came for something else, and they don't think they're going to get what it is. So the question is, what did they come for? Did Ruth Finn send them? Who sent them to come get whatever? Like, what are we going to do? And so they're like, good question. What should we do? And that's when Vanitas is like, they're like, you quack. Mind explaining. He's like, help me find my book. He's like, it's on the second floor, 6th shelf. The book of Vanitas is there. That's what Jean-Jacques said. And they're like, find it quick or we'll be trapped here forever in a closed world that Chloe de Apsher created. And so they're like, fine, we'll help you for now. And then they're like, are you sure about that? And they're like, it's all going to be in vain if we're trapped here. Are you going to make Richie cry? I love that Johann is like being such a wingman for Dante and Richie. I'm like, I didn't know Richie and Dante. I never would have imagined them being a ship, but here we are. So they're just helping Vanitas for the time being. Yeah, super sketch. Super sketch. What we're going to do about this. But they help him look for the books. And then, what did they say there? They're like, do you really, in any case, there's still the matter concerning Vanitas. Saying, I'm afraid it will get ugly. So yeah, what is the deal with Vanitas? Why are they here for Vanitas? What is going on? What's happening? And Vanitas is trying to find a way to get the thing working again. And they're like, doesn't Astermite run it? Isn't Astermite as it's at its core? And he says, well, it's a special type. And he says, it's the blue tearstone. Or he says, it's divine tearstone. And that's when Vanitas freaks out. Like, Vanitas's PTSD is like triggered by anything involving the Blue Moon Vampire. So we have this idea of divine tearstone. And divine tearstone, it's connected to the gem on the book. It's connected to the bite mark. The bite mark on Vanitas's arm is connected to this blue divine stone, which is interesting. I'm like, how did stone end up on his arm? It says, Father, is the stone on this book also made of Astermite? And he says, that's right, but it's no ordinary one. And we see the little kid, number 71, with the Blue Moon Vampire. It's a special kind that's pure and far more powerful. Yeah, it's known as blue tearstone or divine tearstone. The Blue Moon Vampire looks so beautiful, though. They look so beautiful that you're kind of like, you sit there going, well, how could they be awful? They look so pretty. But you're like, but, you know, Vanitas is freaked out by them beyond all belief. So the question is, how did Chloe get their hands on it? How did Chloe get divine tearstone? Because that's connected to the Blue Moon Vampire. Why? And I'm wondering if Vanitas is thinking, okay, these things are all connected. How did I end up here? Why am I here? What's going on? What is this? What is happening? And so at that point, he says, I'll help look for Noe's like, I'll help look for the book. And he brings his arm out. And that's when it starts to work again. Yeah, and so there's also blood on his arm. Like, what is the deal? What happened to your hand? And he says, never mind me, you have to hurry. So yeah, okay. So the blue Astermite, like it's all over his, like the tear stone is on his hand and everything. And Noe's like, what's wrong with your arm? And he's like, don't worry about it. So did he have to cut the mark to let the blood like flow from his arm there to activate it? And that's when Chloe instantly shows up. Yeah. I have to destroy, trying to stop the engine from activating. And that's when Jeanne comes in to stop her again. It's just a hunk of craziness, right? And then Jean-Jacques, he's like, Jeanne isn't going to hurt Chloe. And Jean-Jacques like, how did it come to this? She said she'd be free once this was all over. And I thought she wouldn't have to suffer any longer. And that's when Vanitas is like, yeah, she no doubt intended to die once her vengeance was done. She's like, I know that face well. And when he turned around, he says, that's the face of someone's self-absorbed, self-satisfied look. Now, the question is, he says that look that you're going to die after doing something. And he said it's self-absorbed and self-satisfied. He says it makes him sick. Now, for a second, I was like, is that something that you would make Vanitas? Because are you wanting to die after you've saved the vampires or whatever? But no, he says that he makes it sound like it wasn't him that's made that look before, it's been somebody else. So I'm like, did number 71 make that look and he hates it? I'm like, is that what that is? Because, or is Vanitas self-loathing and he knows that he's made that look before? That's the question. I think it would be really interesting. He says it's someone who has been determined to die alone. And it makes Vanitas sick. Now, that's so interesting to me because I was thinking that Vanitas wants to die alone. He wants to get rid of all of these. He wants to save the vampires, get rid of the book, and then die. But I'm like, does it make him sick because he knows it's how he feels? What I really hope is that if he gets in a situation later on in the story where he has the chance to possibly have that self-absorbed face of self-sacrifice, I want Noe to be like, didn't you just say you hated that? But I don't know. It's just definitely something to think about. And then Jean-Jacques is like, she wouldn't do that. And he's like, yeah, we have to get through to her. She may be close to someone and want to protect them so much, but they'll never know unless we tell them. And I love that moment. I love that Noe is like, look, I had a chance to save Louis, and I didn't tell Louis that I wanted to save him. I didn't tell him how I felt. You got to tell Chloe how you feel. And I was like, that's right, Noe. You tell Jean-Jacques so he can tell Chloe how he feels. Yes. I was like, that was so good. And his little sad face. And then Astolfo comes in and attacks him. And Noe is fighting Astolfo. And then we cut back to Olivier. And we cut back to Roland fighting the monster. And I love that it keeps regenerating and it's not working. And the two of them side by side. Enough, Roland. And so then, of course, Astolfo is just beyond mad at this point and trying to hurt Noe. And it looks like his spear that he has there is powered by the blue moon, powered by the same astromite because it has the blue stone in it, right? I want Astolfo to like realize that not all vampires are out to kill him and everyone else, that he's like gone on this slippery slope. But I don't think we're definitely going to get to that at this point in the series. I think that may be a manga thing that he has to figure out on his own. I could be wrong. Maybe we'll resolve that in the next 5 or 6 episodes. But Noe wondering like, what is the deal? I feel like Noe doesn't want to hurt Astolfo, but he also does not understand why Astolfo is so determined to destroy vampires. Because Noe can't relate. He knows good humans and he knows good vampires. So he's like, I don't understand why you have this worldview. Seems problematic. And he's like, we have to exterminate all vampires. There was some kind of wonky animation on Astolfo's face in this episode, but it's fine. Because right now, everything that Jean-Jacques does, from here on in with Jean-Jacques, I was like, I'm done. So yeah, poor Jean-Jacques, where he realizes that Chloe was going to sacrifice herself. And then when he wanted to save Noe, she's like, oh, well, you'll need a friend too. So it all makes sense now. She's wanted him to have a friend because she was going to kill herself and leave him behind. Like, I was wondering a few episodes ago, I was like, why is she talking about Noe being his friend if they're both potentially going to die? She was going to take the brunt of the blame and was going to die and leave him behind. And Jean-Jacques is so sad. I feel like I have to say Jean-Jacques, otherwise it's Jean. And then there's too many J's in this series. And he's like, you didn't ever speak of having any sort of future. And so then he sees the automatons being the weapons. And he asks her, he's like, why would you go through the trouble to build weapons into those automated instruments? Why would you do that? And he's like, I'll protect you. You don't need them. And she's like, why name them after members of the Dapshire family? And she says, because they'll serve as surrogates for these children. And we see like her as the kid with her mom. I will have my vengeance and they will have theirs together. And that's when Jean realizes that, and I hate it. I hate when he realizes it and he's like crying and he's like, she made the automatons have weapons, not to defend the castle, not to fight vampires or chaucers or anything, but to kill her if the time came. And it would be like her family getting revenge on her. It's so damn sad. And Jean-Jacques realizing that she meant to die when this is all over. She'll have the automatons kill her in an act of vengeance. And I love that he like climbs up the stone dogs and everything, saying that everyone was fighting her. The villagers, the chausseurs, the borough, everyone has fought her except for Jean-Jacques. And he's like, I kept wanting him to say that that he loves her. I wanted him to say that he loves her. I'm like, because he does. He's like fought off everything for her over and over again. But that's what you wished, wasn't it? His voice actor was so good in this scene. I was just like, I couldn't say anything because I was like, oh my God, his voice actor was so good. Like you could just feel the pain in his voice and how much he loves her. And he's like, and she says, I have to destroy this despicable world before it's too late. And it's almost like she's saying it and not realizing if he's there or not. And she's like, I have to protect and free Jean-Jacques. And he's just crying. He's like, well, the world, how can I be free if you're not in it? I'm like, what is this romance? What is this beautiful, wonderful moment? I was like, yes. He's like, I would plunge it into the worlds, in the pits of hell if you wished. I'd go anywhere and do anything if it was with you. Anything. I love that. He's like, but what's the point without you? At this point, they both have to die or they both have to live. There is no other way. I will not accept any other option. Either they both live or they both die. If they both die together, it's going to be really freaking sad. But if one of them dies and one of them lives, I can't. No, they both got to live. And I want Vanitas to save them both. I do. I want him to rescue them both and save them so they can be together. And I love that he's like containing it and he like gets her to come back. It's so sweet. And then that's when Vanitas shows up with Jeanne. I love it. I love the red and the blue. Like the red of her gauntlet and the blue of the book. Yes, please. Yes, please. Chloe and Jean-Jacques are such an OTP for me. I love them to pieces. I want the best for them. I want them both to make it out. I want Vanitas to save them both, but I don't know what we're going to do. And then we have Nania to deal with, and then we have to get out of this dimension, and then we have Astolfo to deal with, and the chausseurs, and we still have Ruthven to deal with. We have got a lot of problems to tackle here in the next little while, don't we? But yeah, I'm going to do some investigating on Discord and find some things out. I said I wasn't going to do any more manga reactions after Attack on Titan and Kuroko's was done, but I may want to catch up with this. I don't know. It's getting so good, it makes me want to know. It makes me want to be curious and know, but I'll do some research around. Please don't tell me, though. I'm going to ask Patreon because I've got some moderators and they should be able to help out too, but I hope you all enjoyed this reaction discussion. It's so crazy. We don't have anything with Ruthven in this episode. It's just like, there's so much going on. You can't just focus on one villain. It's just like, there's no time. But I just want Chloe and Jean-Jacques to be together and safe. Just the two of them. So, in the meantime, I hope you all have a wonderful week. Please stay safe. Take care. And yes, I will be back very soon with more of the case study of Vanitas. Bye!